There's a wound inside you that refuses to heal. You feel it every time someone criticizes you, every time you're rejected, every time you're ignored or betrayed or abandoned. It's always there, this raw sensitivity that makes you react to everything. And you've tried everything to protect yourself. Built walls, created masks, pretended not to care, told yourself you're strong, independent, unaffected by what others think or do. But the armor you've built is useless. The wounds keep bleeding through. The pain keeps finding new ways to reach you because you've been fighting the wrong battle. You've been trying to control how the world treats you instead of understanding why their treatment destroys you so completely. Carl Jung discovered something that will shatter everything you believe about pain, vulnerability, and what it means to be psychologically untouchable. Because true immunity isn't about building stronger defenses. It's about eliminating the internal wounds that make you defenseless. Right now, as you watch this, there's someone else making your emotional decisions. Not literally someone else, but a version of you that operates from the shadows. A part of your psyche that Jung called the unconscious. And it's been running your emotional life without your permission. Think about the last time someone said something that triggered massive anger in you. Something small that created a huge reaction. You probably told yourself you were just having a bad day. But Jung realized something disturbing. That reaction didn't come from the present moment. It came from an unconscious wound that person accidentally touched. Every disproportionate emotional response is your unconscious trying to protect a wound you don't even remember creating. This is why you keep saying, "I don't know why I reacted that way," or "that's not like me," because it wasn't you. It was your unconscious, operating from old programming, old fears, old protections that no longer serve you. Jung's breakthrough was realizing the unconscious isn't just a dumping ground for forgotten memories. It's an active psychological force that shapes every relationship, every decision, every emotional reaction. As long as your unconscious remains unconscious, you'll live a reactive life, bouncing between emotional extremes based on triggers you don't understand, patterns you can't break, wounds you can't heal. You think you're choosing your responses, but you're actually trapped in unconscious patterns that Jung called complexes. Autonomous psychological systems that take over your personality when triggered. The wounded child who still fears abandonment. The angry protector who attacks before being attacked. The perfectionist who believes love must be earned through performance. These unconscious parts fight for control of your personality. And you experience this as emotional chaos, inconsistency, self-sabotage. But Jung discovered the antidote, the process he called individuation, making the unconscious conscious. And when you do this, something impossible happens. Individuation isn't therapy, it's psychological archaeology. You're excavating buried parts of yourself that have been controlling you from the shadows. Jung called the darkest part of this excavation shadow work, confronting the aspects of yourself you've spent your life denying, repressing, projecting onto others. Your anger, your selfishness, your weakness, your neediness, all the qualities you judge in others because you can't accept them in yourself. But here's Jung's radical insight. You don't eliminate these shadow aspects, you integrate them. You make them conscious allies instead of unconscious enemies. When you consciously accept your anger, it stops controlling you through unconscious rage. It becomes conscious boundary setting. When you consciously accept your neediness, it stops controlling you through desperate people-pleasing. It becomes conscious intimacy. When you consciously accept your selfishness, it stops controlling you through guilt and self-sacrifice. It becomes conscious self-care. This is what Jung meant by becoming whole rather than perfect. You're not eliminating your difficult aspects. You're bringing them under conscious control. Because anything that remains unconscious controls you, but anything you make conscious, you can control. When you've integrated your shadow, Other people's behavior stops triggering unconscious reactions because there are no more unconscious wounds for them to hit. You develop what Jung called psychological immunity, not because you're defended, but because you're integrated. The paradox of individuation. Accepting your weakness makes you strong. Accepting your pain makes you invulnerable. But individuation comes with a price that Jung rarely mentioned in his public writings. As you become conscious, you outgrow most of your relationships. Not because you judge others, but because you can no longer participate in unconscious dynamics. You can't play the manipulation games anymore. You can't enable the drama. You can't pretend unconscious behavior is normal when you've experienced what consciousness feels like. This creates a profound loneliness, not because you're alone, but because you're awake in a world of sleepwalkers. Your family doesn't understand your boundaries. Your friends don't understand why you won't engage in gossip anymore. Your partner doesn't understand why you won't fight about the same things. And there's always the temptation to go back, to return to unconsciousness where you fit in, where relationships are easier, where you don't have to carry the weight of awareness. Jung himself experienced this isolation. His relationships suffered. His marriage was strained. His colleagues rejected his ideas because consciousness threatens unconscious systems. This is the choice individuation forces you to make: comfortable unconsciousness with others or difficult consciousness alone. But those who choose consciousness discover something that makes the loneliness bearable. You become your own companion. The integration of shadow, anima, animus, and self creates an internal wholeness that doesn't depend on external validation. You stop needing others to complete you because you've become complete within yourself. And the relationships you do maintain become deeper, more authentic, based on consciousness rather than unconscious neediness. When individuation is complete, something extraordinary emerges. Jung called it the self, not the ego that needs protection, but the integrated totality that needs nothing. Other people's criticism can't wound you because you've already accepted your flaws. Their rejection can't destroy you because you've already accepted your unlovability. Their abandonment can't break you because you've already integrated your aloneness. You become psychologically untouchable, not because you're defended, but because there's nothing left to defend. You've already seen and accepted everything others might use against you. Manipulation stops working because you can see unconscious patterns clearly. Drama stops affecting you because you understand its psychological function. Your decisions come from consciousness rather than unconscious compulsion. Your responses come from choice rather than reactive programming. You become one of the rare humans who cannot be psychologically controlled because there are no unconscious buttons left for others to push. While others remain trapped in unconscious patterns, reacting to triggers they don't understand, you operate from conscious choice. This is true psychological freedom. Not the absence of pain, but the conscious choice of how to respond to pain. Jung realized this wasn't just personal transformation. It was human evolution, the movement from unconscious reactivity to conscious choice. Those who complete individuation become psychological pioneers, showing others what's possible when consciousness integrates the unconscious. So here you are, back where we started. Still the same person, but with a choice you didn't have before. You can continue living reactively, controlled by unconscious patterns, wounded by others' behavior because it triggers your unintegrated shadow. Or you can begin the brutal, lonely, transformative journey of individuation, making the unconscious conscious, integrating your shadow, becoming psychologically whole. Jung's promise is this: when you've faced everything within yourself that others might trigger, nothing they do can touch you. When you've accepted all your weaknesses, you become strong. When you've integrated all your pain, you become invulnerable. Not because nothing affects you, but because you choose how to be affected. Consciousness, not armor, is your protection. Jung spent his life proving that individuation, becoming who you really are beneath all the unconscious programming, is the purpose of human existence. The unconscious will continue directing your life until you make it conscious. The choice is whether you'll be a victim of your unconscious patterns or the conscious architect of your psychological life. Nothing will ever hurt you again when you've already hurt yourself with complete awareness. Nothing will ever control you again when you've taken conscious control of your unconscious. Welcome to psychological immunity, not through building walls, but through eliminating the unconscious wounds that made walls necessary. Jung knew what nobody wants to face. The only way to stop being hurt by the world is to stop being unconscious of yourself.